Okay, so good morning. Today's daf is Nedarim daf chet, and let me share my screen, and we will get started. We are in the middle of a series of statements by Rav Gidel in the name of Rav. We've actually done 2 of the 4 statements. But I'm going to go back and we'll do the second of the statements again. So we're going to start at the bottom. Although we got to the top of Chedam and Aleph yesterday, I'm going to start at the bottom of the Zion and Bet. The last words on the line of the last line, V'amar Rav Gidel, Amar Rav. And so let me just note that our first, we are talking about the first of the statements, which we're not going to go over, related to excommunication. And that is what we're talking about because in our Mishnah, we said, what happens if somebody says, looking back at our Mishnah, right? We said, Rabbi Akiva said, they dealt with the situation. Menuda ani lecha. If I, that essentially I am menuda from you, okay, or to you, and so that there's some kind of menuda generally. In rabbinic literature refers to a form of excommunication. And so that's why we're the first of this communication. And so, but in this context, it can also mean separated, which of course somebody who's excommunicated is separated. And so as a result, Rabbi Akiva said that, or detached, I guess is the translation here. And so as a result, Rabbi Akiva said that Menuda ani lecha could serve as the same kind of oath as Mudrani mimcha, I'm bound from you, and the like. And so as a result, he would say that even that would be a situation where you would not be able to benefit from the other person. So, but again, the given reference to this word menuda, so our first statement from Rav Gidel in the name of Rav related to excommunication, and now we have a number of other statements that relate to oaths. Because again, of course, this is an oath too, so there is a connection. It's not as if it's totally unrelated, but the main topical issue that connects it to the immediately preceding statement is the fact that it's made by the same person. So again, we'll begin at the bottom line. Amar Rav Gidel, Amar Rav. Gidel said in the name of Rav. How do I know that we can make an oath to fulfill a mitzvah? Now we're about to ask a question on what that means, but because how can we make any kind of oath to fulfill a mitzvah? We already have an obligation to fulfill a mitzvah. But at the moment, we're going to understand it as meaning that how do I know that we can make an oath and it is effective associated with a mitzvah? Shene'amar nishbati ba'akayimah lishmor mishpatei tzidkecha. Right. So this is from Tehillim. Tehillim Perek Kuf Yud Tet. It's the longest Perek in Tehillim, and he says, and David says, "I swore and I will fulfill to keep your righteous mitzvah." So the point is, your righteous rules. So the point is that. That it would seem from the statement that one is allowed to do it. But the Gemara then asks, "V'halo mushba v'omeid mahar Sinai." This is something that we effectively swore to do at Har Sinai. At Har Sinai, we effectively took an oath to perform all of the mitzvot as a Jewish people. And so there is no ability to make an oath, a new oath now. That shouldn't be something that is even possible. And so Allah hakamash malan to sharile the inish l'zaruze l'nafshe, that no, so we're going to say ein hachinami. In fact, you cannot make an oath, meaning that the oath is not an effective oath. But what we allow you to make that kind of statement in order to encourage yourself to do a mitzvah. So let's take a look and we'll see, because today's a relatively short daf, maybe we'll go through some runs in detail. And we'll see how the Ran explains. So we'll take a look. The Ran that is about 7 or 8 lines up from the bottom of the narrow line. The Shari way was enough. Paloma. The Ran explains that what is going on is the following. What we mean is the following. Vadai lo itzrich haikra lomar shehi chala legabe bal yachel. That the pasuk is not at all telling us that the oath takes effect, so that if you violate it, you are over the prohibition of not performing an oath. Ella hachi kamar. Rather, this is what it's coming to say. Minayin shedavar hagonhu. How do I know that this is a proper thing? Lehishava lekayem es hamitzvah, to swear in order to fulfill the mitzvah. Va'afilu kesherim, even kosher people, shenimna'in mishvua, that try to avoid swearing, nishba'in hein bekach, they are allowed and even encouraged to make this kind of oath. Shenemar, again, and so therefore, because it says, and now we quote the pasuk from Tehillim, Nishbati v'akayimah, and so on and so on. So Kilomar Shaharei David Haya Osaking, because David himself would do this kind of oath in order to encourage his mitzvah performance. So that is the second statement of Rav Gidl in the name of Rav. So now we have the third statement of Rav Gidl in the name of Rav, building on this second statement. And indeed, we'll see that it connects. Ba'amar Rav Gidl Amar Rav, ha'omer ashkim ve'eshne perekzeh. If you say, you know what, I want to encourage myself to get up in the morning and learn some Torah. So I say I'm going to sit there tomorrow morning. I'm going to get up and I'm going to learn some Torah. Or I'm going to study this Masechet, this tractate of the Talmud. Neder gadol noder le'elokei Yisrael. He has made a great vow for the God of Israel. So we ask the same question. I don't understand. How could you say that this? Again, we assume at the moment that this means that it's a real vow, and indeed we will see that it is a real vow in this particular instance. But at the moment, we're going to say, so how could it be a real vow? We know that this is something that we swore from the time of Har Sinai, and you can't make an oath on another oath. So my kamash malan. So what does it come to teach us? The afilu zaruze ba'alma. Oh, you want to say that it's telling us that we should use this means in order to encourage ourselves to run and do mitzvos? One second, Hainu de Rav Gidl Kamaita. That was what we learned from the first statement of Rav Gidl. So it can't be that because rabbis don't teach you the same thing twice in the Talmud. They don't need to. The Talmud wouldn't need to repeat that. So this is in fact what it's teaching us. Kaven de by patar nafshe, that if one wanted to, one could exempt myself the kriya shma shakris v'harvis mishum hachi chayel shvua alei. So because one could fulfill the basic obligation of an oath through the reading of Kriya Shema in the morning and night. So as a result, we're going to say that this oath actually does take effect. And let's take a look at the Ran, about 5 lines into the wide lines. Hakamash Malan. At the end of the line, Hakamash Malan to Kevan to Ibai Pater Nafshe. Right? Mistabrally, so this is the Ran saying, I think, it doesn't mean when we say that the reading the Shema at the night and during the day fulfills one's mitzvah, that it isn't actually an accurate statement. Because in fact, one is obligated to learn at all times according to one's ability. Learn Torah at all times according to one's ability. And the Kafi Koko is very important here. Actually, you're not obligated to do more than your ability. You're obligated to do what you can do. And so in that situation, well, then what does it mean? Va'amirin beparakama de kedushin tanarabanan v'shinamtam shehu divrei Torah mechudadin The Vicha, right, that when it says Vishinantam, it's telling us that the words of the Torah should be regular in your mouth. She'im yishalcha adam davar shalot tigam game the tomar lo. You should not be hesitant in responding to any question about Torah learning. That's how much you need to go over all the Torah that we learned. The Kriya Shema Shachris v'Arvis lo sagi lahachi, and obviously just reading Kriya Shema is not going to be sufficient for the purposes of enabling you to be able to answer any question in learning on a moment's notice. Ela mikan nirali raya lamasha kasavti beparak shvua shtayim basra. That this is a proof to what I say elsewhere. The kol midi de asa midrasha, that every mitzvah d'oraisa that we learn not directly from the psukim itself, but rather from some drush. So it's not explicit in the Torah, but we say that it applies to us. So like learning, like this concept of Vishinamtam Shiahei Dvurim Mechudadim B'Ficha, that we need to learn so much that we know it very well. So Afal Pishahu Min Torah, even though we consider that to be a mitzvah from the Torah, Kavan Delasi Mefurish Bakra, since it isn't explicit in the pasuk Behedja explicitly, Shvua Chala Alav, you can make an oath about it. So even though we have a general rule that making an oath to put on tefillin every day, to make an oath to shake the lulav, to make an oath to go sit in the sukkah, all of those things don't actually apply because those are mitzvot that we already have an obligation to do. And so as a result, there is no effect to the comment of making the shvua. But when it comes to learning Torah every day and every night and all day and as much as you can, so that we don't learn directly from a pasuk. The pasuk only tells us that we should learn when you lie down and when you get up, meaning at nighttime and during the daytime. It doesn't mean at all moments. It just means at some moment. So therefore, when you swear that you're going to learn something beyond just the Kriya Shema, that oath actually does take effect. Bahacha, hachi kamrinan. And so this is exactly what we're saying. Kevan to ibai pater nafshim imai diksiv b'kra behedja dahainu b'shachbacha ukumecha b'kriya shema shachris va'arvis. That since if you wanted to fulfill the literal words of the Torah, you would be sufficient with your reading of Kriya Shema during the morning and at night. Mishum hachi, because of that, chala shvua aleha. The oath actually does take effect. Legamri, completely. Afilu lekorban, even so that if you forget to do it accidentally, then you would be obligated to offer a sacrifice. V'hainu de ka'amar neder gadol, and this is why when Rav Giddel said his statement, what did he say? He said neder gadol nadar le'elokei Yisrael. You did a great vow. He's calling it a vow. Kolomar lekol dinav, according to every rule of a vow, kedavar harishus, just like something else that is something that's permitted and not obligated. The kvar kasavti zesham b'ra'ayos gemuros b'siyata d'shmai. So with that and elsewhere in that other place in Perek Shavuos, so that is where the Ran writes more about this. But this is a key Ran in understanding that this additional concept that even though something might be obligated, there's a difference between mitzvot that are literal in the Torah and mitzvot that are implied by the Torah. So those two things are very important, Ran, in that regard. And so now we're ready to the fourth and final statement.
Rabbi, this Ran seems to imply that it's a mitzvah for all of us to become Talmidei Chachamim, because if we don't study all this, we're not going to understand what we're supposed to be doing.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I mean, again, the question is how narrowly or expansively to understand the words kafich chocho. Obviously,
Mhm.
one needs to be able to earn a living and the like, but the idea is that whatever free time that one has, obviously, you can't give every moment of your day. Most people can't give every moment of their day just because of exhaustion. But and it's difficult to maintain that level of concentration. But to the extent that we have free time in our lives, we should be doing our best to try and use that in order to achieve this status of having the mitzvos and the requirements that we have to do sufficiently customary in our mouth, sufficiently that we should have a sufficient facility with that information, such that if somebody says something, we're able to provide the details immediately. So, and so that's an excellent point. That this is on some level, this is applying to everybody, and everybody has it's a subjective amount of time that one needs to spend. So, if one is engaged in doing other things and earning a parnasa or helping other people or doing other mitzvos, well, then obviously that is still, and they learn what they can when they have free time. Well, then that's still kafi koko. So, but the stage or the state of being able to be comfortable in what we do and to have a good enough sense about it, that is a goal for every person, not just the Talmud Chacham. Okay, so now we go to the fourth and final statement of Rav Giddel. As we go back to the Gemara, we say, "V'amar Rav Giddel Amar Rav, ha'omer lechabeiro nashkim v'nishna perek zeh." Now, so very similar to number 3, but now the people are talking. He's talking to somebody else. The person who's making this vow says to somebody else, let's get up early and study together. So let's get up early. Let's get up for, thankfully we do our daf yomi after chakra. So it's only at 7:45. Let's get up early, 7:45. Let's learn daf yomi together. And so, and study. So if you do that, if you say that to somebody, alav lahashkim, it is the person who initiates. It has to get up early, and in specifically, we're going to see it's earlier than the other person. Meaning, if you're the one who's encouraging the process, then you have the obligation to get up extra early to make sure that the other person is getting up. And how do we know this? Because when Hashem said that he was going to do something, he got up, he was there first. So what's the pasuk? The pasuk is from Yechezkel. So Vayomer Elai kum say el habikah v'sham adaberotach. Right. So Hashem said to me, that's who the third party is here. Get up and go out to the valley, and I'm going to speak with you. So, and what ended up happening? The eight say, I went out to the valley. Elabik, I went out to the valley. V'hinei sham kavod Hashem omed. Hashem's glory was already standing there. So the point is that just as Hashem was there, Hashem said, let's go out, and then got there first. Again, if you propose, this is a great midah to have generally. If you say to somebody, let's meet at Starbucks at 11 o'clock, you should be there at 11 o'clock. You should even be there a little bit early. Exactly. So that the other person isn't waiting, because you're the one who made the proposal. And obviously this is especially true if you're learning Torah together. So that was the fourth final thing. And if we take a look in the Ran here, so it's 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8 lines up near the end of the lines of the Ran, in the widest of the lines. Alav lahashkim mistavrali. It makes sense to me. This is what it's saying. Kaven she'amar nashkim. Since the person said, "Let's get up," harei kibel alav she'yehei hu me'orer b'davar. That he is going to be excited and awakened just as he is doing it now. So meaning just as he's encouraging this moment early now, ahead of time, he's going to be there early. V'tarti kamash malan. And this is teaching us two concepts. Chado, first the concept, the Kabbalah ba'alma, that just this kind of accepting the Dvar Mitzvah, Mahanya, that helps, that is something that is good to do. Demaida Amrinan, Hachi lo his gear, lo neder velo shvua, that here we don't mention that this is a neder or an oath. And rather, this is just speaking, right? The guy's just saying, let's learn tomorrow morning. Sagi, that is enough. Dumya demaida amrina to Kabbalah bilachud mahanya l'tzedakah. That just as accepting the concept that you're going to give tzedakah is sufficient to obligate you to do tzedakah. So kedeksiv b'fich zu tzedakah, that even just saying something with your mouth, that is enough to obligate you with respect to tzedakah. V'hu adin l'chol dvar mitzvah. So too with anything else. So the point is first, that this is like a formal obligation, even though there was no language of shul, no language of oath, this person has effectively taken an oath. The kamash malan, and so that was item number one. It's like an oath. You have to get up early and do it. The second thing, the kamash malan nami, the alav lahashkim, that it's on him to get there early. To the avad kudsha baruch hu, just as God did in the verse in Yechezkel. So we see these two important lessons. And so, all right, so now we are ready to go back to the concept of excommunication. And now we're going to teach a remarkable thing about dreams and excommunication. So let's take a look and see what Rav Yosef, the remarkable thing that Rav Yosef will say about dreams. So, Amar Rav Yosef, niduhu b'chalom. If you get excommunicated in one of your dreams, and I hope that this will not trigger that thought for you, and we'll see that it's not enough for you to also get unexcommunicated in your dream. So we'll see that in a moment. But if you get excommunicated in your dream, you need to get 10 people together in order to annul that excommunication. And these people need to be people who learn halacha, who know law. Aval matnu lo tanu. But it's not enough for them just to read the halacha. They need to actually study it. They need to actually know what they're talking about. So lo, right, is aval matnu velo tanu lo. But if they only are reading it but don't have the ability, or reading it but don't have the ability to teach it, or to study it, then that is not sufficient. The ileka detanu, and what if you don't have anybody of a detanu hilchasa? What if you don't have anybody who is able to study? Afilu matnu velotanu. Well, then it's okay if you get the people who read and don't and aren't able to study. The ileka, but if you can't even find that, so then lezel velesev aparashas drachim, go sit at the crossroads and v'yahim shloma lebeyasara, and say hello, say shalom to 10 people, so that they will therefore, as we'll see in a moment, they'll respond to you. You say to them shalom aleichem, they say to you aleichem shalom, to you to peace. And so as a result, they will be, by wishing you peace, that is effectively wishing you a bracha. So every time we say shalom aleichem, it's more powerful than just saying hello. We can really try to, especially to other Jewish people, we should try and always say shalom aleichem, because it's not just hello. It's really giving somebody a bracha. And then you should do that until you find 10 people who actually know the law and thereby can lift your excommunication. Now, the Ron here offers two different possibilities of understanding. I explained it according to one version, but let's take a look in the Ron. 4 lines up from the bottom of the Ron, and he says, so kolomar demasnu lacher, and the point is that they teach others, right? So the key aspect, aval tanu bilachud below low. But if you all you do is learn it alone, that's not enough. The lo chashivi kulahai, that's not as important. It's not as big. It's not as a ability. The key is to be able to teach. All of our learning should enable us to get to a point similar to what we said earlier, right? That it should be so fluid in our mouths that if somebody asks us a question, we're able to respond immediately. But at the very least, we should have the knowledge base in order to be able to help others bring each other up. So that's a very beautiful concept that when we learn, we're never learning only for ourselves. We're also learning in order to be able to help others. The Ika de Garcia, but there are others. Then there's another girsa that the Ron notes. Tanu Hilchos Kolomer Gemara. That the point is that that when we say Gemara, we mean that which is the way I translated first, which is to say, that you're able to actually study about Matna Klomer Mishnah B'Lachut Lo. But if you only know Mishnah and you don't know Gemara, you're not able to go into that level of detail, but rather just have an overview. Right? The Mishnah is sort of like the high points, and the Gemara is all the details. So if you only have the high points, that's not enough. You need to have the actual details. So those are two different understandings. It could be about teaching, or it could be about knowledge of the details. In some ways, they're related clearly, but in any event, that is the point. So that is the first concept, which is that if one dreams about an excommunication, then that is a meaningful thing. Well, Amalei Ravina Ravashi. So now we have a question. Yodaman Dashan. So you have your dream is sufficiently clear that you know who excommunicated you. Well, that help? Meaning, if in fact in real life Rabbi John Doe excommunicates you, well then you go to Rabbi John Doe and he's able to excommunicate you. But does that work in a dream? So Yodaman Shamte Mahu Delishrele, is that person able to lift it by himself, or do you still need 10? So Amrle, so Rav Ashi responded to Ravina, Lishamute Shavuye Shaliach, that to excommunicate, that he was made a shliach. In your dream, Rabbi John Doe was made a shliach to excommunicate. What lemishrele lo shavuye la shliach. It doesn't mean that he was made a shliach in order to. So therefore, that is not going to be sufficient. If you have an excommunication in your dream, you still need the 10 people to unexcommunicate you. So Amrle Rav Acha Rav Ashi. So now Rav Acha asked Rav Ashi, Shamte v'sharule b'chelme. As I mentioned earlier, what happens if you have a dream that starts off terrible because you get excommunicated, but then ends up in better because you got unexcommunicated? So what's the halacha? Can we consider that okay? So Amrle Kashem Shiki Efshar Labar below Tevin, just as when you have grain, all grain is bad, namely the chaff is not usable. So Kachi Efshar Lachalam below Dvarim B'Telem. So too, every dream has something a little crazy in it, something that doesn't make any sense or doesn't have any matter. And so as a result, what we're going to say is that we have to be worried that the excommunication is what is valid, and the de-excommunication, the bringing the person back, was not actually a meaningful act. And so therefore, yes, you still need to get the 10 people together to unexcommunicate you. All right, so now we're going to tell a story, and the story is relevant because at the end we're going to deal with excommunication. So let's take a look and see what the story has to tell us. So Ravina Habala Nidra of Devitu, that Ravina's wife made a neder, and Ravina wanted to annul it, and obviously he wasn't able to annul it as the husband, either because he didn't annul it in the beginning, or because it wasn't about a particular topic that would be subject to annulment. But anyway, also look to Rav Ashi. So he came in front of Rav Ashi, Amrlai, and he said to him, Baal mahu sheyaseh shaliach l'charatas ishto. What's the rule about a husband appearing before the court in order as the wife's agent in order to convey the wife's regret that she didn't wish that she hadn't made the oath. So Amar Alei, Ravashi said to Ravina, if in fact you already had the group of judges gathered, so then then the husband can act as the wife's agent. Low. But if they were not, then no, you're not allowed to. So Shema Mina Tlas. We learned three things from this incident. So Shema Mina, we learned one, a husband can convey his wife's regret in connection with annulling a vow. And I know that this is the first time that I'm learning Maseches Nedarim, but I had always hoped that this was true because every Rosh Hashanah, when I do Hataras Nedarim, I always say, and to the extent possible, I'm also doing this for my wife. So here we see that, in fact, because the court is already there, the court's there for me. So as a result, it is in fact possible for me to do it. And so I thankfully I have been successful at eliminating my wife's oaths each year, and so as a result, now I know that in fact one should say it. So and indeed, often when I say it, and everybody else says yes, and I'm doing it for my wife as well. So it's good that we do this. So ushmamina. So that's number one. That there is the possibility, and indeed, I would suggest that we should try and do that. But obviously, if the woman wants to appear before the court herself, that's totally fine. But that's not always possible, especially with all the preparation that needs to happen in front of Rosh Hashanah. Not to be sexist as to who's doing the preparation, but at least in my family, that's usually my wife. So lo shari mishrei. So that was item number one. Ushmamina. So what item number two is lo shari lemishrei nidra ba'asra derabe. That in the place of your teacher, you don't have the ability to annul. Meaning, why was it that Ravina was asking Rav Ashi this question? It was because presumably Ravina couldn't create the court himself, because he himself was in the same town. So Ushma Mina Ki Mechanfin Shapir Dame. And finally the point is the point that it was actually explicitly said by Rav Ashi, which is that if in fact the group is assembled, that is what enables the husband to act as his wife's agent. But if in fact he needs to assemble them just for his wife, so if you did a Hataras Nedarim for yourself and then realize that you forgot to mention, I wanted to have my wife in mind, then you need to join somebody else's Hataras Nedarim. You can't have it just for your wife alone. Okay, all right. So, and all of that gets us to the teaching that actually relates to excommunication. Vishamta, when it comes to excommunication, afilu b'd asra derabe, that even in the place of your teacher, you're allowed to engage in a elimination of an excommunication. The yachid mumcha shari shamta, and even a single expert, even a single rabbi who is an expert in the topic, is able to undo an excommunication. So that's again an important topic that relates to the topic of excommunication, which we've been talking about. So now let's close by going back to something that we mentioned yesterday. And that is, yesterday we mentioned that there is one category, we mentioned one of the categories of people that get excommunicated, namely that we should excommunicate. And indeed, there's a mitzvah, effectively, if we don't excommunicate them, then we ourselves deserve excommunication. And that is somebody who takes God's name in vain. That if you take God's name in vain, then somebody who hears that should immediately excommunicate the person. So Amar Rabbi Shimon bar Zvid. So now we're going to do the flip side of that. How good is it if we are careful about not taking God's name in vain? So Amar Rabbi Shimon bar Zvid, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak bar Tavla, Amar Rabbi Chia Richa Dvei Rabbi Acha, Amar Rabbi Zera, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Chanina, Amar Rabbi Miyasha, Mishmei the Rabbi Yehuda bar Eli. So all these people said it. There's some chain of names that it was said in all the name of all these different people, all reporting in the name of Rabbi Yehuda bar Eli. My dichsiv, when it comes to this pasuk that is in Malachi that says the following: "V'zarcha lachem yirei shmi," that it shall shine for you. This is referring to the sun. Those who fear my name. So what does that mean? Elu b'nei adam shehein yirein lahotzi shem shemayim levatala. Anyone who is afraid and is very careful about not saying the name of a Kadosh Baruch Hu in vain, so that is a good thing, and one should and anyone who has that, then what is the rest of the verse? Shemesh tzedakah umarpe, that the sun should be a sun of righteousness and healing. And so the point is that the sun can heal us. And indeed, obviously, the sun actually does have healing powers. So it's not surprising. So those healing powers are going to be particularly powerful for those who are careful about not using God's name in vain. So Amar Abaye, Shema Mina Chirga Diyoma Mase, and that this teaches us that the chirga, the dust of the day, is maseh, is able to heal. And the meaning that when you look in the sun's rays, often you will see dust. I think, of course, think about most clearly one sees that in a movie theater when you look up at the projection, you can see or at least in old projections, you could see the dust in those projections, and so that's the way it was understood. They didn't understand the rays of the sun and the vitamin D, etc. So in any event, the point is that that's their understanding of this. And Ufliga de Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, and this understanding of this verse disagrees with Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. The Amar, because what did Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish say? He did not interpret this in connection with our world and today's man, but rather aim Gehenim la'olam haba. Rather, he says that if God willing, in the world to come, there will be no Gehenim. We won't even have a need for Gehenim. Why? Kadosh Baruch Hu motzi chama min artika. Hashem will take the sun out of its sheath, is translated here, out of its shield, out of its protective coating. Tzadikim misrapin ba, and as a result, in that future world, not necessarily in our world, but in this future world, then the righteous will be healed through the sun. Urashanin nidonim ba, and the wicked will be punished. Shenemar v'zarcha lachem yirei shemi shemesh. So again, citing this pasuk as it says, and it shall shine for you those who fear my name. So the righteous are those who fear God's name. So the lo od elishemas adnim ba. Rather, it will be more than just. It won't just heal. The righteous will delight in the sun. Shenemar. And you will go out and flourish like calves in the stall. Meaning, just as a calf grows big in a stall because it's fed and it's taken care of and it's protected, so too that same this special sunlight in Olam Haba will protect and nourish and do everything wonderful for the righteous. It's an interesting analogy because, of course, the calves are fattened to be slaughtered, but I'm not going to go there. So Vaharisha, even though I just did, Vaharishan and Nidonimba, and again, the wicked will be punished. And how do we see that? We see that in the following Shneamar, Hine Hayom Ba Boer Katanur, and the day is coming, burning like an oven. So, meaning that the prior verse says that there's going to be a day that burns like an oven. And so as a result, it's going to be remarkable. And by the way, this very consistent. I mean, I have my own view of Olam Haba that I'll share with you in a moment. But the idea is that in Olam Haba, in the world to come, that we won't need to change anything. Basically, the world, the Hashem will construct a world where what gives reward to some is punishment to others. And so, my version of this is that the Olam Haba is like a humongous stadium, right? And where we get to sit in the stadium, and it's all the entire program is learning Torah. All right. So there's no football game, there's no baseball game. It's just learning Torah. And are you going to get a box seat, or are you going to get a nosebleed? And to what extent is your presence there going to, in and of itself, be punishment? Meaning, if you don't train yourself to love Torah and to enjoy the learning that you're doing, well, then that's going to be a punishment. You're going to be sitting and you're not going to know what's going on. You're going to be confused. You're not going to understand anything. And so as a result, you'll be like, what's the point? On the other hand, if we have the training and understand then we'll be able to truly enjoy it. And so may God willing, we May of Esrim have the knowledge and background that we're able to truly enjoy all learning of Torah, etc. And so that brings us to the next Mishnah, which continues this discussion of Yadot, or partial declarations. And so stay tuned as we pick up at the top of Daf Tet Amud Aleph, God willing, tomorrow.
Yasher Koach, thank you.
Your Baruch Tiyah. Look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.